Hey everyone, Nupka Subair. We have finally got these new updates on these new GeForce NVIDIA graphics cards, which we revealed in this CEO keynotes, which is been from this RTX 5070, RTX 5070 Ti, RTX 5080, and RTX 5090. So we have a huge line of graphics cards which will be revealed on. You will get hands-on performance reviewed from these big content creators on these graphics cards, which is gonna revealed by 30th of this January. It's going to release. But the pricing what we are expecting is not that kind of bad at all. But as what I have assumed, it was perfectly not high enough because there is not much of achievements but not much of technology's achievement based on the hardware raw performance perspective. So the RTX 5070, which is $549, almost like a 50,000 rupees, and 7 RTX 5070 Ti, which is $749, almost like the 80, almost around 80,000. RTX 5080, which is $999, which will go across 1 lakh rupees, and RTX 5090, which is $1,999, which is almost like a 2 lakh rupees. So these are not that much of a huge price spike from the previous generations which we have seen from the 3090 and 4090. So according to that, we have now more AIs integrated to the graphics card, which has RTX 5070 1000 AI tops, 1400 AI tops for 5070 Ti. 5080 Ti, we have 1800 AI tops, and RTX 5090 is the 3400 AI tops. So AI tops, what it means, the more AI tops, the more AI's dependencies on the graphics to render and become more efficient of the renderings processes in the architectures will become more high performance capabilities. So what they have achieved this now is most remarkable thing is the DLSS 4. So upscaling and frame generations are both 2 aspects. Apart from now they are just advertising as a single aspect, but I believe there is in super resolutions is a different part and the frame generations is a totally different part. So super resolutions is the machine algorithm which makes the graphics cards much easier to render because it's taking input as low resolution and then just input, and whenever it's storing that inputs and making an output with the high and upscale images, which makes an easier graphics cards to take the input of what has been hardwarely raw performance been rendered. So taking a raw rendered data, compressing it to the low resolutions, and then making it output as a high and upscale images and the resolutions for the native what the hardware is running on. So according to these reveals, we have a Blackwall architectures and all have DLSS 4, but there is a need to remember that every 5070 graphics cards and 5080 and 5090 we have a Plague Tale Requiem, which is totally bottlenecking the CPU. So performance will almost looks like the same because it doesn't contains the DLSS 4 technology, which has already been mentioned. So what they have mentioned is the 4K max setting, DLSS SR super resolutions preferable, and DLSS RR raw ray constructions. 40 series and 50 series frame generation is on, and with some multiple frame generations what they have included in these DLSS 4 and 50th series, while Plague Tale Requiem only supports DLSS 3, which is the fluxing dev, which is FP8 on 40 series. So on 50 series CPU it's using 19800X3D, which is AMD, and from the Intel it's used the 14900K for NVIDIA apps. So these are these configurations they have already mentioned. So a lot of the expectations from this internet which is revolving around like these are the fake frame generations and all. Frame generations is the fake frames and all that stuff, but I do have a few points on this, that it's not the fake one, but what it's doing is the rendered frame, what raw performance being capable of, it's assumption by being taken up by graphics card with the machine learning and all related algorithms. So they are expecting the next frame between the two frames. So that was the DLSS 3, but whenever the environment moves around and your character moves around, that may create some of the shimmering artifacts and all of that stuff. So that's what they have improved in the DLSS 4, which is multi-frame upscaling. But the frame generations still have the issue, which if you create a multiple frames between the two frames, then if it is a still image and high upscale, but that will reduce a lot of impact on the graphics card while improving your performance on the FPS, but the frame generations can increase surprisingly high latency. So what they have introduced up top upon of that is the reflex. So NVIDIA Reflex 2.0. So what they have introduced is Reflexes 2.0, which reflects the optimized graphics pipeline, ultimate responsive, and providing faster target acquisitions, quicker reaction time, and improved aim. So this basically what is happening right now. It's still will have the problems from these DLSS frame generations, but I think upscaling is quite good because it will give you the more high qualities upscaling images and the resolutions while improving the FPS. But for the frame generations is not fake, but at least adding on the frames. What's happening is there will be a lot of shimmering and artifacts, but once you have achieved a 60 FPS target or more than 60 FPS target, then it will smooth up your gameplay experience. And the latency doesn't matter above 60 FPS on that, but if your hardware is not capable of pulling off even the 60 FPS, then this will create a lot of latency issues and the input lag from your keyboard and mouse. So there comes up the NVIDIA Reflex 2, which will solve, but right now whatever the reveal I've seen and observed from this all content creators on YouTube, I see there's a bit of more improvements needs to be done, but from the upscaling I have more high expectations and I'm very positive about that. So there will be a lot of things will show up in the high res upscaling. So upscaling is not a bad perspective on this increasing your performance, while it will reduces the more load on your GPU. But because previously what we have seen from the 3080, 3090 and the 2080, 2090 series of card, like what the raw performance is being rendered on these games, these are being taken as an input raw data to the graphics card and they are rendering it, and then exactly the raw performance being delivered to the resolutions and the displays. So this takes a hell lot of load on the GPU, while the upscaling it can reduce a lot of load on the GPU, which will makes the game more faster and more responsive. So responsive means you don't have the input lag or any sort of other shimmering or artifacts, while frame generations is a totally abstract, not the totally abstract, but it will create in the competitive games and multiplayer games, while for the single player frame generations can highly be used to achieve a significant amount of performance if you are already achieving the 60 FPS above. Before that you can still tweak down your graphics and then you can play without having an input lag or any sort of the in-game play experience, and then this will create a lot of less load on these graphics as well. But there is no way of doing something like your graphics is not capable of pulling off those kind of resolutions, and still you are putting it high qualities, and then you are using the DLSS, and top of that you are using frame generations. That doesn't make any sense on that. You can just tweak down your graphics card and then use upscaling, and that will increase a high amount of FPS. So what we are looking around here is the performance wise, like Black Myth Wukong has a double the performance when it comes to 5090 to 4090, but they are marketing as 4090 will be the same performance as 5070, but it will not. According to that, you have to run the DLSS RTX on the performance mode. So performance mode, what it does is lowers the resolutions and giving up more shimmering and artifacts on the games. But while it will add on the higher frames doesn't mean the smoother and the responsive gameplay. So they are totally missing out that higher frames doesn't make any responsive gameplay. So these are the specs from these graphics cards, while comparing these graphics card specs, which has the 5070, the 12 gigs of VRAM, GDDR7, while they have not increases from the 4070, is also the 12 gigs of VRAM as well. So while 5070 Ti is 16 gigs of GDDR7, but still it's not been improved from the previous 4070 Ti. And the 5080 is the 16 gigs of GDDR7, while 4080 was the same. And 5090 has been improved. It was the 24 gigs of RAM for these VRAM for 4090, but it has been increased from 24 to 32. So this can be a selling point for these high-end gigs of VRAM, but I think the minimum expect from this graphics card from 1570, this should be a 16 gigs of VRAM, because if we look to the if I look to the Intel, it's also 12 gigs of VRAM and GDDR6, which is $250 graphics card. But if we go on to the price, so it's a much lesser price than other $250 graphics card in NVIDIA and AMD sections. So what AMD has achieved instead of the upscaling is phenomenal, I guess, because whenever it comes to a 4K upscaling, so they have improved a lot in regarding the FSR 3 on the left and FSR 4 on the right. So it's also removed all these artifacts which will goes around the polygon, which is neither the triangular shape, which has been lower resolutions, the distant object, look at there. So distant object can have the shimmering, but now they have significantly improved a lot on that, and I think upscaling is a remarkable change, while the frame generations might gonna have a problem in future as well. So AI Top's gonna do these AI frame generations and all the DLSS machine learning thing. So Tensor Cores has been improved from 4th gen to 5th gen. Ray tracing cores has been improved from 3rd gen to 5th gen. Encoder is also being improved from 1st gen, 8th gen to 9th gen, and also the 5090 has a 3rd 9th gen. So also the decoder has been improved from 1 to 2, and also the memory bandwidth regarding these 5070 is 672 gigabytes per second. 5080 has 896 gigabytes per second, and 5080 is 960 gigabytes per second, and 5090 is 1792 gigs per second. So these are based on the Blackwell architectures, but according to these all, these are not highly improved enough from my side. I think this is all based on AI things and all, but they already missed out from this raw performance and the raw rasterizations. They haven't used the Half-Life 3 for the RTX thing. This is probably Half-Life 2, which being used as an RTX thing, which have this full ray tracing experience, which can break through neural rendering. So previously it was the lumen rendering. Now they are using the neural rendering technologies accelerated with 5th gen tensor cores. So these are the graphics cards news and updates, and I think upscale can have much more improvements, and I'm highly optimistic on that. Upscaling can definitely improve your FPS, but from the frame generation sides, I'm still confused about that, what kind of input lag and simmering and artifacts will be there. So I'm highly optimistic and always positive on this graphics card side, and also expecting from the NVIDIA, AMDs and Intel as well to bring up that competitions in the market, so that people can have the more optimized and more refined versions of the upscaling, rather than just focusing on frame generations, and just getting more frames doesn't make any responsive games at all. So that's it for my side. I'll bring back the new videos and updates on these games. So I'll meet you in the next video. Till then, keep gaming. I'm out.
Yeah, boy.